two generations of brothers making music like this, it's very unique.
Coming from a family of deaf parents, and all of a sudden they get some children that, wow, they're musically talented. It's blossomed. It's really special now. I think it says a lot to who we are, what we've learned, where we want to go, and the legacy we leave behind.
My name is David Ullman, and you just heard the voices of my brother Brian, my dad Jim, and his brother Jack. Together, we are the Ullman Boys, and in this conversation you'll hear us going track by track through our first studio recording collection, the newly released family album. We'll be reminiscing about the stories surrounding the song selections, the recording sessions, and the inspirations for the project. You can find Family Album wherever you get your digital music, your Apple, your Amazon, your Spotify, YouTube, iHeartMusic, something called Deezer, I think. You can also stream and download the collection for free on dreamingoutloudrecords.com. This is our 50th Dreaming Out Loud music release, spanning over 20 years, and in some ways, this family album was almost 60 years in the making. I spoke to the other three members of the band from my home in Minnesota, where I've lived for the last 10 years with my wife and 2 dogs. Dad, Jack, and Brian, as well as the family Shih Tzus, Emma and Sophia, were all together in Rittman, Ohio, in the house where we all grew up. And despite the sentimental sound bites I chose for the intro, we also have a lot of laughs. Maybe because we were a little punchy from talking for 2 solid hours prior to what I include here. I hope you're half as delighted by this talk as we were. The album ends with these with the only 2 original compositions on the collection, and the one that follows Three Said Her Name, where it sticks with me as the singer, How Loved You Are, I had written in 2000. It was the last song, I guess, just sequentially that I have finished since finishing the album that Brian made for me in 2000, that came out in 2015, called The Furious Light. That came out in August of 2015, and for my wife's 40th birthday in August of that year, I wrote this song, How Loved You Are, and I think I played it for her. Oh, I know I played it for her here at the house. I played it like in the lobby of some theater, kind of warm up for the tour that we did as a band, Brian and me and our friend Yost and his pal Jeff Gill. And but anyway, that song had not really, I played it very few times, and there were a few lines, I think even too, that I just kept changing in the years in between. But I can't remember how it made its way into this collection, but I wasn't really even like pushing that hard for it. And then suddenly, what do you remember about, Bri?
I remember very clear. It was Dream Lullaby. You know, Dad had come up with Dream Lullaby, and he had brought that to me, and then he and I worked that to finish together. And then I played Dream Lullaby for you. Then you started to get the picture. You said, I have a song, and I don't know how I overlooked it, or I don't know how I didn't know about it. I don't know how it didn't come to my attention before then. But that's when you said this fits in with this, because Dad had written Dream Lullaby for Evelyn and Lillian, our sisters, his grandchildren. So it was just really out of love. It was really out of a true place. This just fit right in. And we're like, well, this should go with this. And even though we had a large collection of covers, that one rang true. The rest of it, and like I said, with the U2 songs, they really felt just heavenly to me. And that type of love really fits into these last 2 songs. So,
yeah, I'm remembering that now.
How long did it take you to write that?
Not too terribly long, and it sometimes takes me a really long time. But actually, the title of it and that idea came a few years prior to that. When I met Susie, she had an elderly beagle that his name was Turtle, and they were inseparable, these 2. And actually, Turtle was her sister Nancy's dog. That when Nancy had her first son, I think maybe Turtle snapped at Oscar, and because of that, they Turtle came to live with Susie, who was living in Duluth at the time. So Turtle was Susie's companion before I was, and it's actually extra special to me that as it turned out in the sequencing of the album that this song comes after those U2 songs, because I met Susie by absolute happenstance. I literally won the lottery. U2's tour, their Vertigo tour, had a situation where there's this like a circular stage, and that is the thing around which Bono would run during Where the Streets Have No Name, and allowed them to kind of get out and into their audience in a different way than most rock bands of their stature can. And so they would have like the cheapest seats were the general admission seats. So they're not seats at all. You stand on the floor. And then, but there's the outside of that circle, and then there's inside of the circle where it's like a much smaller gap. It's kind of like a half circle up to the stage, and they call that the ellipse. And so you could get general admission tickets and that was all just based on when you got in, and maybe you were in the back of the room, but there's a lottery system that when your wristband would get scanned in, that would put you into the ellipse. And so I was going with my friend Sean and his now wife and our friend Sarah, and I can't remember like how I was fortunate enough to be there, because as much as I loved U2, I don't think I had gotten tickets or anything like that. And they were all making like allegiances of like, well, if my wristband goes off, I'll bring you into the ellipse, this kind of thing. But I wasn't even part of those discussions because I was just so happy to be there. And then our friend Sarah's, actually there were two Sarahs, so there's Sarah.
I was going to say Sarah and Sarah.
Right, yeah. But her wristband went off and she looked so excited, but then like, oh no, like what am I going to do? And I didn't even really think about it, and I didn't really think I don't know who she chose. I don't know. We were all just walking forward. And then we seemed to keep walking, and then suddenly walked out, and we were all in the ellipse, all four of us, which I think it was breaking the rules, but I was like, what?
That's the best thing about a concert.
Yeah. And then, within a half an hour or so, like in the first songs and stuff, I met Susie by accident, who was like, she had quite to go through quite a lot to get and be there. Like I can't even remember or recount it all, but in part of it was she was there with this guy that she had met at a U2 show in like 1992, and they got in touch on the forums, and he go to a lot of shows, and she had this amazing experience on the same tour where she got Bono to hold up a sign that she made, and she was just in a real U2 frame of mind and life, and really wanted to be there, and so she worked hard to be in that position that I got just by happenstance. But for her to get there, she had to kind of be friendly with this guy who was kind of...
Oh, yeah. They're all creepy.
It's kind of we could tell our friend group that maybe she was trying to distance herself from this guy. And so we struck up a kind of conversation, and she took this picture of me and my friends so that we didn't have to do like a disposable camera selfie. But anyway, so she and I literally met because of U2, and literally through this lottery kind of situation. So yeah, for it to just fall, for that song that I wrote for her to fall in that sequence, but it took shape. So like we met in 2005, she had this dog Turtle, and in 2011, just after we got married, Turtle, who was 17, had reached the end of his long life. Mm-hmm. And I remember that day and sitting in our Cleveland Heights apartment, and you wonder things about dogs, and I just wondered, like, did he know how much we loved him? Like, did he know how loved he was?
Wow.
And that's where that phrase came from.
Okay.
And so I had that for the longest time, and then as it was nearing her 40th birthday a few years ago, I was like, well, what can I do that's special? And so I decided to write a song for her. So I really, so that's in there actually. Now that I've kind of heard that story, when I sing about the night she danced into my life, like it was literally like, it's pretty specific. She and I thankfully have been happily together since then, like almost 17 years now. And that So the idea, the tension of the song of like someone having to go or whatever, that's actually not really from our relationship. It was from
A little bit like Turtles.
a little bit of fiction and a little bit of like the having to say goodbye to that beloved dog. But
Oh man.
but the family aspect of it, because like, of course we are all family, and in the Dream Lullaby song that we'll talk about next and last that closes the album, you bring in this new generation of Amy's kids and the grandkids, and it just felt like, yeah, this kind of family affair. And like, I don't have kids, but Susie and I have our dogs or whatever, but like, I thought that it fit the kind of larger familial themes to kind of, this is sort of how my family expanded. And so that's why I wanted to include it. And Brian just took it and ran with it. I gave him like an acoustic, maybe iPhone demo, and he built this orchestration out of it.
Yeah. And Dave and I really went back and forth on this one quite a lot to get the final outcome. And I'm proud of the final outcome, but I'm just thankful to be a part of it with Dave, and they trust me to do that.
Yeah, it was a real surprise to me the first, because there's some like weird tempo things that I wanted to do that.
You telling me about that? Who are you telling about that?
Well, but you like I'm you
totally
regulated it like and kind of made it into this thing, so it was actually a different, consistent tempo than I was used to.
I thought I figured it out.
You did actually. you did. I just was lagging behind. Like I had my own internal rhythms that needed to conform to that. So much so that I almost could never play the guitar part, which sounds crazy, but because it was something that I came up with and stuff, but I just could never conform to that timing. Like it was bizarre but I loved so much.
It is bizarre. It's bizarre timing. I love it.
What you created was pretty straightforward and really worked on its own so well. You had left space for what would be my guitar and vocals and stuff like that. But I
was trying to.
I just became, it's that thing they call like demo-itis, when you fall so much in love with an early stage thing that it's difficult to let go. And in this case, I just never saw the reason to do what you would have to do to make it work the way I had conceived it, which was kind of start over. I was like, I just don't want that.
Oh no. See, I've been through this too, and it's not fun.
Yeah. Because there was like this like almost like Spanish flavor to the guitars, but it had the organ type thing. There was this beautiful like sonic palette that was mostly devoid. It was not driven by an acoustic guitar, and that was kind of the only way that it existed for me prior. But to me, what you had built felt so much better and so much more of what I would want in a recording that I was like, hopefully I can figure out how to play the acoustic guitar later. And when I just couldn't, I was like, can we just build up other sounds and textures that feel, and so I was asking for like ideas and colors, and he was then trying to realize that sonically. How did you do some of that? Because I was just like, I remember you telling me when you were in like school for recording, how like they had told you, they warned you, like, as a producer or whatever, like you're going to get like flaky artists like asking you for like, make this purple. And I was like,
colors
I became
for
that
sound.
flaky artist. Yeah.
They wanted colors for sound, and it's like, boy, it's your job to figure that out.
How did you figure it out for this one?
I have no idea. I mean, you and I are so close to, like Jim and Jack, that I don't know, there's a thread that where I can tap into what you feel. And crap, in this one I reverted to Trent Reznor.
All right.
I was like, well, Trent Reznor did this on Hurt.
All right.
He took a sound and looped it so much with reverb that it became its own tone. But because it was a moving tone, it was moving. It wasn't stagnant. It wasn't just a note. It was moving. And so I tried to take upon that to automate reverb, automate long sustaining notes to represent notes, and that was different. That was different from what we've done in the past, and that helped us get through the song. And I'm very proud of where we got to get it to. And it was a lot of compromise, and I'm just proud we could get there.
Yeah, me too.
The compromise of vision.
Yeah, and there was one there's one line I think, and it's funny because it's like a coincidence that the line is like, "I don't want to take it slow. I want you to know how loved you are." But for me, that "I don't want to take it slow" it was too many syllables for the part of the kind of song. But I was like, I just couldn't make it. I couldn't figure out what else it could be, and so I had this thought. It's like, okay, maybe if nothing else, it would overlap, because this was one of the areas where I wanted to do like, this is a guy who has no idea. I can't believe people play drums. Like the foot and hand syncopation. I sat down at one once. I was like, whoa, never. But anyway, so I wanted to do this kind of thing of like, I don't want to take it slow, where you're kind of hitting toms and stuff and like really you couldn't do it to a click track, I don't think. Or you would have to mess with the tempo. And so that was what I had in my head. But then we had this beautiful thing that Brian had built that I was like, I want to make it work with this. So maybe we'll overlap it to where one of my vocals will, maybe on the refrain, it just overlaps. Like you hear that in songs. But somehow in one of the takes that I was trying, I got it all out. And I was like, that was a accidental timing, and it all fit and seemed like, and now I can't hear it in any other way, and could probably always sing it. But it was the first and only time that I did, and thankfully it was captured and allowed that all to like kind of work.
It's like an offbeat 3/4 time, it's like an offbeat on a 3/4 time that you don't want it to take too slow.
Mm-hmm.
It's so perfect.
And ultimately had to be rushed, which I kind of like too, because that's the line. So I had to rush
think about that.
Yeah, anyway, that song, was very rewarding for me, and I'm so grateful to have had you see it through. And I still have yet to surprise her with the recording of it. I let slip only in the last few weeks that it exists, but she hasn't heard it yet.
Man, yeah, it's great to know, and I thank you for trusting me to get it to that point.
A great Sunday silence falls around me, so let your worries go, set them down at my feet with limbs unashamed. Lay yourself down beside me, listen to the rain, let it sing you back to sleep. Let the night seep into our skin. I don't want to wake for tomorrow to begin, for your blue eyes to break my heart in the best way. Say you have to leave, that you really can't stay. But if you've got to go, I hope you know how loved you are. I've been thinking about that night you danced into my life, all that had to go wrong for us to work out right. You took my picture, I shook your hand and said goodnight. It was lovely to meet you. Now knowing that I just met my wife, I don't want to take it slow. I want you to know how loved you are. much too good to give up. Still I worry, can I really be enough for every scar? There's a tale to be told, but no one else can be my one true north. So I hope that you know how loved you are, how loved you are, how loved you are, how loved you are.
This has been a Dreamin' Out Loud Records and Hair on the Bear production. It was produced and edited by me, David Ullman. I recorded myself here in Minnesota, and my brother Brian recorded himself, Jim, and Jack in Ohio, both for the interview and of course all the music as well. And speaking of the music, you can find Family Album by the Ullman Boys on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, and of course for free at dreamingoutloudrecords.com. For more of the story, including photos, videos, countless links to the related projects mentioned, and the collected 7-part blog series recounting the family music history leading up to this moment, head over to davidullman.net/familyalbum. Thank you to my brother, my uncle, and my dad for sharing their time and memories with me, and thank you to you for taking an interest in us.